Crawford Tournament Structure LLC.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're sitting here today with the owner of the Crawford tournament. This was his first tournament, and it was very successful. It amassed over 8,000 views from absolutely nothing, so that was pretty incredible in and of itself. Premiered some of the better teams in Call of Duty Mobile, including what is the updated version of Tribe, also known as Seminole. Infinite Simplicity was showcased, Operation 34, 11D, so some big names were showcased in there. What's going on today, Chaos? How are you?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Not too bad. So, your first attempt at a tournament, so how were we feeling about it? Was there things that you liked and things that you didn't like?
So, I would say going into it, I was definitely stressed, being as I was kind of starting from the bottom and had to piece together not just staff, but kind of put together some of these connections for some of these larger teams that started to pour in, being as I didn't really know, like, on a personal level, a lot of these larger names coming in. So I kind of like had a huge burden on my back trying to make it a successful thing. But I feel like as far as the larger team turnout was definitely a great thing. I will say, I would definitely say, like, we kind of want to continue to incorporate some of these larger teams, though, clean things up. We have some stuff we want to add this time around.
So if you had to think about it for a second and you had to incorporate a few more teams, is there anybody that immediately comes to mind that you would like to see be present in this situation? I know that we want to exclude a few just because the skill gap is pretty vast. Is there a team that you really want to see involved this time around because you feel like it's going to make for what is a more competitive, let's say, first few rounds?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say we definitely like, being as I kind of, like I said, I came from the tier 2, tier 3 community, started from the bottom. I kind of tried to incorporate some of these smaller teams just to kind of see where the skill gap would be and like give them a learning opportunity against some of these larger teams. But we definitely like to add teams like LG, Cygnus, Galaxia, teams such as that, just kind of make some of the opening rounds more appealing too, because obviously some of those opening games kind of weren't as, they were, I guess you would say, an eyesore compared to some of the big opening games. So we kind of want to make it fair all the way around from round 1 through 4.
Okay. Behind the scenes, we've been in discussion about what is going to be, as you refer to it, an updated competition, updated tournament. So I think this lends to what is going to be another opportunity. How do you plan to approach it? Is there anybody that you plan on partnering up with to sort of help you put everything together and organize everything?
Well, yeah. So like I said, seeing the skill gap between some of the teams that came in, we come into it with a more fair approach and kind of giving like an even opportunity to everybody that enters. We want it to be like a welcoming community where the teams like feel some type of energy going in, because being as there were smaller teams kind of playing against these larger pro teams, the energy just wasn't there all the way around. So we kind of want to have set up tournament structures for tier 1 can play tier 1, tier 2 teams can play tier 2 teams. And we want to incorporate bigger caster names, kind of organize some of that stuff. So like Geomania obviously is going to stay along. Witch yourself is going to stay along with us. Excellence, we'd love to have him on as like an analyst, kind of break down some of the gameplay, but we'd like to include larger names like Verdict, maybe possibly bobbyplays. He'd be a huge name to help kind of host the tournament and stuff. Maybe somebody like D Hitman, just larger names that we can kind of incorporate to help kind of up the viewership. 8,000 is a great start for a first tournament. Like I'm not at all ungrateful. I'm very grateful for our first turnout, but I definitely think we can kind of revamp this one and make it bigger, clean it up a little bit.
Absolutely. You know, starting from nothing and then getting to that point, especially on your first attempt, and then being able to reach the teams that you were able to and put them in a position to sort of play with some of these other teams that are still developing was still beneficial. I will say that incorporating people that are a part of the same thing that we're all a part of, and I don't think anybody's above that, you know, adding value to what are the tournaments that provide our best comp players a place to sort of showcase how good they are. I think everybody that's available should, you know, lend a hand, considering they're all making a living off of what is the COD Mobile community. So we've talked about, in between ourselves, we've spoken about an updated name to it. So we're talking about what is the Crawford tournament structure. Essentially, you and myself going through and coming up with what is going to eventually become an updated version of tournaments in general, which is catered to T1 to T3, which is going to be happening post this next competition. Are you excited about that idea? And Where do you see that going, and what do you see that offering for the community?
Yeah, so obviously coming into like the tier 1 community, as I started to like climb the staircase, make my way up, I say as a tier 1 community, we could definitely be way more opening to the smaller teams. Being as like T3 teams don't want to stay T3. Like the whole point of everybody, like of these leaders coming together and starting these smaller teams, isn't just to stay T3. Everybody wants to make the climb to the top. Obviously, it's hard. It's a business. So I would say definitely like as a community, whether that be tier 1, 2, tier 3, we all need to partner together. We're all people. Tier 1 and tier 3 doesn't mean we have to treat each other like crap because of a difference in number or a difference in skill. So I definitely say I like the idea of being able to incorporate one overall tournament structure with different levels of competition.
Yeah, and beyond that, I think it's going to animate people to want to get better a little bit quicker. And I think it's really going to open the door to a lot of sponsors being involved. I honestly see our idea, which is still in development, quickly becoming what is the replacement for a lot of smaller tournament structures, including but not limited to Mobile Mayhem, which this year was not quite as active as previous one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I would say another thing is, as far as not even for the smaller tournament structures, but as far as the larger ones, we kind of just have Mobile Mayhem, and then everybody kind of like sits around and prepares and waits for champs, obviously. So it'd be nice to have something in between to kind of like an updated, newer version of like what we want as a tournament structure overall, to kind of throw something there in between, because we shouldn't be waiting like all year for that one big tournament when we can literally as a community come together and create something for everybody in between.
Yeah, I think with reference to the fact that there's a lot of Discord servers that really open a line of communication between what is T3 to T1, it's sort of a communal space. I think you really get an idea for how many teams are out there and how many teams are apprehensive about signing up for some of these tournaments, strictly because they're with the understanding that they are not currently at the level that they need to be in order to be able to compete efficiently with these T1 teams. And providing this formal structure that, you know, is going to be a year-round tournament structure, it's really going to open up a lot of different opportunities for casters, for content creators, for players to quickly develop and also have like a bird's eye view of what their opponents look like in conjunction with people that are currently above themselves in terms of their skill set. So it's a really good area to promote growth for players and also give them a space to compete where they're not apprehensive about joining because it's a fair shake.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of growth, not necessarily just for players, but also tier 1 doesn't just have to have the casters. Like there's smaller like community content creators that want to cast tournaments like this that are on the move and kind of growing and stuff too. So it'd be awesome to kind of like we have Benzo, who has worked with us, who is absolutely awesome, but he's not necessarily a name like Verdict or Gilmania or Zim or D Hitman or any of them, but he was awesome for us. So it just kind of shows like the name doesn't necessarily have to like, because this whole, like I said, this whole thing is a business. So it'd be awesome to kind of incorporate some of these smaller casters too, whether that be with the smaller casters might not participate in casting the tier 1 games, but the tier 2, tier 3 and such will also need casters, which would give some of these smaller content creators an opportunity to grow under the proper tournament.
I 100% agree, and I project that the viewership is going to be ramped up exponentially considering the longevity of this and how much emphasis is going to go into the development. So obviously when we talk about development, there's going to be a time where we advocate for people to reach out to you to either join the team in terms of developing the structure with us, or reach out for a position moving forward as we do the development with a few individuals that we decide to incorporate. You can either find Chaos's Discord information here and reach him through there, or you can contact him through his email, which is right here. Chaos, is there anything that you'd like to add before we wrap it up today, my friend?
I think that's really about it for right now.
He and myself are going to be creating some big things in what is the comp community.